Come and enjoy a straightforward, humorous, and enlightened hour on quantum physics to metaphysics on the show that wants you to ask questions. It's time for Ask Patti, live with your host, Patti Conklin.
Hi, folks. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Ask Patti Live. I'm here in the good old, we really do have a studio tonight. We are at Media Management, who has been sweet enough, earthchannel.org, to let us use their phone lines tonight. So we appreciate that, and thank you, Cliff Johnson.
Yay,
but I've
Cliff.
got Dr. Vanessa Hall with me and Michelle Greg, welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for being on tonight.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Michelle is an astrologer. And Vanessa and I were just really fascinated. Vanessa treated herself to a birthday present astrology reading with Michelle,
I did.
And you walked away really impressed.
I did. Michelle's been studying astrology for 20 years and has been a practicing consulting astrologer for 11 and has clients all over the world, which is really cool. And we have a mutual friend that we took a homeopathy class with.
Actually, we had her on the show not too long ago, Susan Kramer.
That's right. And so I treated myself to a reading. And, you know, my whole experience with astrology up until today has been reading, you know, my horoscope in the newspaper.
Yes.
And I always thought it was kind of hokey and, you know, and I just thought it was amusing. But then the more I got to know Michelle and hear about what she really did and what astrology really meant, I thought, you know, this would be a really cool thing for me to do. And, you know, I must admit that I walked out quite impressed with the information that I had because, you know, we were talking about all last month personal responsibility.
Yes.
Well, you know, astrology really, I think, helps in that department. But I'm going to let Michelle describe what exactly it is that she does because, you know, I'm sure I can't quite describe it as well as she does. But I can say that I received useful information that I will be able to use to help me navigate my life. So, and I'm looking forward to having, you know, further consultations with her to refine that and get even more detail. And it's also funny because Michelle was born 10 days after me in the same year, so we have a lot of similar features in our charts, and we were quite amused. So, Michelle, tell us what you really do, and really differentiate the typical, you know, newspaper experience from the reality of the powerful tool that astrology is.
Sure, I'm glad to. First of all, astrology is a map of the energy that was available at the moment that you were born. So when you draw up a birth chart, you look at the time, the date, and the place of birth, and that gives you a map of where all the planets are at the moment that you're born. Each planet represents a psychological urge, a part of the person that every person experiences. So, for instance, Mars is a planet that represents the function of anger and aggression. So each planet represents a function that every person has, and then each planet then comes through a sign. And the sign colors are describe how that urge is going to manifest within the life of the person. We also look at houses, and we look at aspects, and through the correlation of those four things, we come up with a very, very accurate map of the energy that person expresses throughout his lifetime. And then we use that map in other ways, not just to describe the character. Every person really knows their character, but we use the map in correlation with where the planets are now and how they actually impact your life. And through these transits, we call these transits, when a planet is in its orbit and it connects with the planets in your own birth chart, it creates a situation, so to speak, or it creates an energetic response in the person, so that then you choose to either respond to that energy with personal responsibility, which has been the topic that Patti and Vanessa have been covering over the last few weeks. You choose to do it well, or you choose to do it not so well. And if you know what's coming up, then you can prepare yourself for your response to the energy that's there for you to use.
Yeah, well, you were telling me in my chart that I think Uranus and Pluto or something were lined up, and so the revolutionary planet.
That would be Uranus, yes.
Okay, and how that was influencing my life right now as far as transitions. And, it was very accurate because I'd actually already started trying to be proactive and positive and making some changes. And then,
but you weren't trying, right? Because trying is a futuristic
that's
term.
True. I was
working through
making
it.
There you go. Working
Thank you.
through it. Thank you very much. But it was interesting how I could choose to start making those changes, or I could resist them and fight it and be in a more negative space. Now I didn't know this prior to having my reading, but what struck me most was that my idea of astrology was predictive, and this is what your life was going to be at whatever time. And what it turns out is there's certain energy influencing you at the time, and you have a choice to respond to that energy in a positive, productive way or not.
That's correct.
And so when you know that energy is coming and there are certain influences there, then you have a choice of how you're going to respond to it, and you can actually plan accordingly. So if you know it's coming up, then like you said, then maybe you wouldn't go into a particular situation. So if it was a time that communication, like you said, for example, was going to be difficult for you, that probably wouldn't be the time to talk to your partner about some difficult issue.
Correct.
And so you know that period of time is not a good time for that. So you can choose not to, And so I just found it empowering for my own life and the things that I'm feeling and going through now. And it was fascinating.
Well, I'd like to take it a step even further in that when we're talking about the alignment of the planets when you're born, we're really coming back around to frequency. We're coming back around to the frequency of the planets that were in our sphere of vibrational pull that then charts, that then really affects us as we're coming in as a soul. And because I believe that we choose our parents and we choose the time of birth, then we're coming into the plane of existence in the exact time we need to have the frequency for all of these experiences. And I'll take it even one step further.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm in my quantum physics to metaphysics here. Nostradamus was amazing because Nostradamus really did most of his work, not as a seer, not as a prophet, but as an astrologer. And Nostradamus took exact birth times. Whenever he was doing a reading on a patient, holistically, he was taking their exact birth time, and he was charting the planets, and he was making his diagnosis according to the planets at the time of birth. And look at how long his work has continued. But the whole base, the more they study it, it was just all astrology.
And it was all accurate.
And it was all accurate, yeah. That's just pretty amazing to think about that whole trine, that whole aspect of life being based upon the stars, based upon the frequency of stars. It's pretty mind-boggling, actually.
Well, you said it's all energy, right?
It's all energy.
So that energy that was going on at that time with those stars being aligned in a certain way, it makes sense. There's a particular sort of flavor or I don't know, character to the energy at the time.
And each planet carries the flavor or the character of the energy of the time. So it's not just that you can understand what your energy is, but it's also that you can understand the energies that are compelling all of society. And I mean, it goes beyond the personal.
Yeah.
And you can use astrology in just about every single aspect of your life that I can think of. You can use astrology to help with your physical well-being. You can use it to help with your mental, your emotional, your spiritual well-being. You can use it.
I want to. Yes. I was going to say I want to know about my love life.
Yeah. Forget all the philosophical stuff.
Forget that. The philosophical stuff, it's good, but I want to know about my love life. Fernessa wants to know about her professional life, but I want to remind folks we would love to have you call in and chat to us tonight. And you can call us at the toll-free number 877-230-3062, or if you're in the chat room, feel free to send a message through on chat, and would love to take your questions about this topic. It is Ask Patti Live, and feel free to give us a call again, 877-230-3062. So when you do an initial chart for someone, what do you really look at? When you looked at, because you did mine last minute this afternoon, so because I hadn't gotten you the information, so you had just the briefest glance. What was the first thing that struck you?
Well, the first thing that struck me about Patti's chart is that her sun is exactly conjunct, and that means it's right next to the planet Pluto. And that makes for, number one, an incredibly intense personality. And it also makes for someone who is involved with deeply transformative experiences. So Patti is Patti. She does what she does, and there's not a better way to describe that, I don't think, than deeply transformative experiences. And not just for the people that she connects with and works through their issues with, but also for herself. She is deeply affected, I believe, am I correct, by every person that she works with.
Pretty much.
And so the sun is the planet that represents the core being, who that person very deeply is and who you are becoming at all times. And so with Patti's sun sitting right next to the planet Pluto, Patti is always transforming who she is and always becoming someone deeply different than who she was the moment before, and bringing these experiences and that type of energy to the people that she works with. So that's one of the things that struck first. I
have always said that I have been really blessed because I've had like 4 lifetimes in one.
Only 4?
I ran a 1,000-acre cash crop farm, and I oversaw literacy programs in 30 countries, and I started my own underwater diving construction company, and now I'm doing this. And so when I look at life and I realize that I go through an experience, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I learned this, and it may have only taken me 6 months. I remember going for a job interview at a nursing home. And when I went in as an activities director, not even as an aide, but as their activities director, one of their main staff, and I remember the administrator looking at me, and he gives me a quizzical look, and he said, "Have you ever been in a nursing home?" And I said, "No." but I know I can do this job, and after 5 interviews, he finally looked at me and he said, "I have no idea why I keep calling you back, but I know you can do the job. You're hired." And 6 months later, I had the department all changed around, and I'm like, what now? I mean, I need something more. So life really has. I mean, I have been doing this work as a medical intuitive, doing, since my visitation 12 years ago, I was director of Canine Companions for Independence, and was told to begin doing my work. And 12 years later, I'm still doing it, and this is the longest period of time that I have ever done anything. But it's only because it changes every day. I never know what tomorrow's going to bring. We've got Shannon, I think, on hold, who would like to ask a question. We don't have a computer model in front of us tonight, so we're just kind of taking basic questions. So do we have you, Shannon?
Yes, I'm right here. Hello.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Doing really well. What's your question?
Well, just basic general. My life has been up and down, and I just wanted to know if it's on the right track yet.
I'm getting a lot of static in the line. I don't know if you two are. Did either one of you hear that question?
I was wondering.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering if, my life has been up and down on a roller coaster, and I was just curious if I'm on the right path to positive changes and things like that.
Okay, Shannon, this is Michelle answering the question. We don't have your birth information here in front of us.
Oh, okay.
But it sounds as if you may be having a Uranus transit. And a Uranus transit, one of my favorite words to use with the Uranus transit is a roller coaster ride. Patti, help me along here. I don't have her information, so I can't answer a personal question, I don't believe.
Yeah, I think we're and Fernessa may be able to jump in here. I'm just getting like every third word. So.
Yeah, so am
I think the best answer for that would be for her to call you for consultation.
Yes.
It really isn't, it's not something that you can just pull up. I didn't understand that until I had my reading. But it's very complicated. There's a lot of information. And so, Michelle, why don't you give your phone number and your web address, and then maybe Charlotte can contact you later, and then maybe get a better idea of how this works. It's just it's way too difficult and time-consuming to even attempt to do that. So what's your number?
Shannon, my contact number is 404.
I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you. I apologize.
Do you want me to try again?
Yes, please.
Okay, 404.
404.
223.
223.
3363.
3363. Okay.
And my email is Michelle, with 2 L's, at astrosphere.net.
At Astrosphere?
And I can spell that for you. ASTROSPHERE.net.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, Shannon, I hope to hear from you.
You will, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, folks. Sorry about our little technical difficulties, but we're all back now and looking forward to continue our conversation. I was just going with skepticism a little bit. How much can we really plan this a year out? What does it really look like?
Well, it is absolutely possible to plan a year out. And plan plan would not be a word that I would use, but to be able to see the energies that are coming your direction over 1 year's time is absolutely possible. And you can see the energy coming in any area of your life.
But if we, and this is a belief system I have, if we've got 10,000 different ways to get from point A to point B, how can astrology kind of move into that space? And I'm going to actually have you hold that because we've got Connie from Texas on hold. And let's take Connie's question. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Patti.
How are you?
I'm okay. I just discovered you about a month ago, and I think you're wonderful. I can't believe I'm talking to you.
Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have 3 health concerns, and one in particular that I'm trying to figure out what to do about, so I wanted to find out what you can see.
Okay, I'm going to give you the 1-minute skivvy because we've been talking about astrology, but I'll switch gears here real quick. And what's the main question?
Well, I recently found out how dangerous root canals can be, and I had one that I had it in 94, but I had surgery on it about a year ago, and now it's starting to ache, and I'm just wondering if it's poisoning me from the inside, like I've been reading about it, because I feel like there's something wrong in there. And also my lungs, I'm wondering what condition they're in, and my fingers. Something's happening to my fingers, too, and I can't get a diagnosis on any of it. So
Okay, I'm going to give you the 1-minute skivvy here. The 1-minute skivvy is this. The root canal looks fine. Doesn't look like there's a big issue with that. Your lungs and your whole lymphatic system's a little toxic. Just in terms of congestion and toxicity, you're not getting enough fluids. So there's 2 things I'd do. Start getting more water, and I'd start getting some chlorophyll and start taking some chlorophyll caplets, and just kind of push that through a little bit more because you're just toxic and you need to push some stuff out. But it's not for the root canal. It just
so you
looks
don't
like
see any
things
bacteria?
just kind of congested.
No bacterial infection?
No.
Well, then why is it aching?
Well, it's aching because you don't have much circulation going on in your lymphatic system. And
and
so
I drink a lot of water.
Yeah, but you know what? Your body gets used to whatever amount of water you're taking in. And so whenever you're working with something, you're going to have to push it even more. A lymphatic massage would be good. But that's, there's nothing major going on. The root canal wasn't an issue. But you are congested throughout the lymphatic system, and it's just kind of blocking everything up.
Will that help my
More
lungs,
water
too?
and chlorophyll, yep. Okay?
Okay, great.
But thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too, bye.
Thank you. And we've got Julia from Maryland on. So, hi, Julia.
Hi, Patti. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing pretty well, too. Thank you.
Good. What's your question?
Well, I'm same boat as the other caller. I have more of a medical intuitive question. I started a product. It's called Simplex F. It's supposed to be to get the thyroid and pituitary and adrenals, kind of get them going again. And basically, I'm just calling to see if that's the right product for me because my thyroid has been kind of off and on, and I'm holding a lot of weight. And
well, your adrenals are pretty shut down, and for me, that throws off the thyroid and your hormones. But Dr. Hall could probably give us more of an answer on that.
Patti, you answered it perfectly. If your adrenals are shut down, then it has a sort of a cascading effect on the rest of your hormonal system. And so the key here is going to be to restore the adrenals, and then you can work on the thyroid.
Hang on, let me turn the volume on my phone up because you're very low.
Okay, I'll speak up.
Okay, thank you.
What I was saying is that when your adrenals are shut down, it has a cascading effect on the rest of your body and the rest of your hormonal system. And so you can't correct your thyroid without addressing your adrenals. So I would focus on getting the adrenal issue under control, and then it would be easier to get your thyroid under control. Are you seeing a practitioner to guide you through this process?
Well, I had been told by a different medical intuitive about the Simplex F, and I ordered that, and I've only just started taking it.
I would encourage you to address the adrenals because when I'm looking at your thyroid's not the issue. Your adrenals are the issue. And so deal with the adrenals, get some kind of a support. Dr. Hall, is there a good support for the adrenals? Because if you're just taking the products for the thyroid, it's not going to work because the thyroid isn't the issue. The adrenals are the issue. And remember, you can listen to this on archive. So, if you need instructions again, feel free to go back to the archives and be able to listen to it. But And Michelle was saying that Mars rules the adrenals and that Mars is in retrograde right now. So, see, we can fit it all in.
What do you do? What can I do to get my adrenals working again?
Well, okay. Go ahead.
Well, in my world, there are tests to look at your adrenal function and to see where you are. Nutrition plays a very important role in adrenal function, and so assessing your nutritional status would be important. And then, based on that information, there are hormones that you may need, for instance, DHEA. I would not recommend taking that just on your own, as it is a drug. And there are specific nutrients that may need to be replaced to help the adrenal function. And then, of course, one of the most important things is to figure out why your adrenals are shut down. Because if it's the same environment that created this problem still exists, you have to address that and resolve it, because the adrenals respond to stress. There's a great book to read. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it talks about our response to stress and how humans are different from animals, in that an animal, the zebra runs from the lion, and then the lion catches one of the zebras, and the rest of the zebras are 100 yards away, grazing as if nothing happened. They've forgotten about that already. But humans, we're going to worry about that, and when's it going to happen again, and all these things. And all of that causes stress on the adrenals, where they overproduce hormones, get fatigued, and then shut down. And so if you don't address the situation, whether it's emotional or work or other medical issues or whatever it is, if those aren't addressed, then you can't correct the adrenals, because they're under the same pressure.
We have Dr. Hall in full doctor mode, but thank you so much for calling, Julia. And honestly, talk with your practitioner, your physician, and look at what you can be taking for your adrenal support. But Dr. Hall, I completely concur. She has to look at why the adrenals are failing to begin with, and it's in my world, it's typically going to be an emotional problem. So thank you so much for calling, Julia. We appreciate it, and we're going to go back to Michelle for a minute. And you were saying, Michelle, that Mars is in retrograde and Mars rules adrenals. Now, how much does that really, how much I gave the example earlier of Nostradamus, and Nostradamus being able to diagnose and everything from the charts. But how accurate are we in today's world? Have we lost information throughout the centuries?
The information absolutely evolved from the time of Nostradamus. I'm not familiar to a great degree with Nostradamus' work, but what I can say is that we can be extremely accurate with our information these days. And right now, I think that there are probably a lot of people who are experiencing adrenal shutdown, slow adrenal function, because Mars does rule adrenaline and the adrenal function. And when it's retrograde, all things that Mars rules then slow down, become more internal, and this would be the time when people would experience, especially if they are having a lot of stress, this would be a time when the adrenals would stop functioning properly.
Give me an overview. Dr. Hall has something to say here.
I was going to say that, that when you know that this energy is coming, and you know that you've been stressed over the past however long, then you know that this is a time that you need to take better care of yourself. And see, this is how you can use this chart to your advantage.
This is my questioning mind coming back in. are you then not setting up the energy to perhaps have that issue if you already know that it could be a possibility? I mean, if we live life, and I'm sure you've got a great answer for this, so I'm looking forward to it. If we live life understanding that we create our reality, and you read my chart, I still want to know about my love life, but if you read my chart and say, okay, this planet is ruling this for you, and you're going to be moving up into a challenging time health-wise with your adrenals in 6 months, am I not then starting the perception in my brain that I'm going to have a challenge with my adrenals? Could I be, or is it still just an outline of potential?
Here's the thing. When you know that you're about to be impacted by a particular planet in a particular area of your life, it does not have to be specifically one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you are someone who has in the past had adrenal problems, then you may want to prepare, or you may want to eat more minerals, or eat some seaweed, or anything that you can do to support your adrenals when you know that there may be a time coming up when their function might be low.
Okay.
But that's not the only response that you could have. There are multitudes of responses that you could have to any energy that's coming. So you can actually choose then in understanding that there is an energy that's going to be impacting you. You don't have to choose to go to the lower vibration of it.
Right.
You can choose to opt for the higher vibration and expect the very best that could happen from that energy, thereby setting your mind frame, up to expect the most wonderful thing to come as a result of it. Every transit that you have that impacts your chart from an orbiting planet can hold positives and can hold negatives, and it's up to you and the way that what you're holding in your own mind for yourself and the decisions that you make. It's up to you what to do with that energy. You can do bad things,
response,
but you can also do wonderful things. And I think, yes, there are transits that can be particularly challenging, but you're going to learn something fabulous out of those, and you're going to evolve and grow into who you're meant to be becoming, and learn the lessons of your life that you're meant to be learning, if you can grab a hold of the positive aspects of it.
And I think that that's where a positive astrologer comes in, because as Fernessa and I know, a lot of our client base is in phenomenal fear. And so getting information where, a chart says they may have issues. I mean, I really think it's in the presentation, don't you think, in terms of
like
who's
the doctor
giving you the information.
Telling you
you have 6 months to live.
You have 6 months to live, or, you know what I mean? So certainly there's the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
But I think here's where personal responsibility comes into play. We have a choice.
That's right.
We take this information, and then we look at ourselves. And then if you have had adrenal issues, or you've been stressed and are likely to have had your adrenals be more fatigued, then this would be a period of time for you to take care and be proactive.
And then you can move on to the positive.
Exactly.
If you're being proactive and you're taking the proper care, then you're free to...
But if you don't know that this time is coming, and you continue doing activities and participating in things that are adding more stress on your adrenals, then you could crash in this period of time. So I look at it as getting valuable information for you to be sensitive to what your particular needs are at that time.
Can we do a quick overview before we go to break? Can we do give me your assessment as an astrologer on each of the signs? What is the one or two key components of each sign? Or is
Sagittarius is our
we
smart,
both know
beautiful.
you're Sagittarian, so we know you're both beautiful and dynamic and outrageous, and no egotistical in there. So, but truly, are there definitions by sign? I mean, the one or two statement. What am I as a Leo? Tell me.
Leos love to be the center of attention.
See?
And she says, no, that's not me.
Oh, no, I do say. Until I'm isolating myself.
But I think the key word for Leo is expressing the heart and learning courage. Those are the keys, I think, for Leo.
And what about Taurus?
Taurus is an earth sign, and the elements are very, very important with the signs as well. Fire, earth, air, and water. So Taurus is an earth sign, and its keynotes are stability and security.
Aries?
Aries is me first, pushing through, being very initiatory. You know, they start things, not necessarily finish things. That's for the Taurus to do. But Aries is me first, and I want what I want, and I'm going after it.
And Pisces?
Pisces is compassion. I would say compassion is the keynote for Pisces. And the ability to really tune into the energies of other people and to feel. They're deeply feeling.
And what about Aquarians?
Aquarians are mental sign. Keynotes for Aquarius are I must be who I am at any cost. I have to be myself, and myself needs to be different from everybody else.
And Gemini?
Gemini is also an earth sign. An air sign, and they are the thinkers of the zodiac. They make connections. They process information and give it back out.
Okay, we've got a few more to go, but we're going to go to break for a few minutes, and I think we still need Virgo and Capricorn and Scorpio. Yeah, okay. Let's go to break, and then we'll be back with Vanessa and Michelle, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us tonight on Ask Patti Live. We are talking with Vanessa and Michelle. We're talking about astrology and how it impacts our life, and just, is it accurate? What can it tell us? And I'm kind of getting the cheat sheet on the overview of signs, and Michelle was pointing out during break that the sign, it really matters where the planet alignments are, and not so much the sign. But I still want to pick your brain on Virgo, Scorpio, and Capricorn. What about
Cancer?
Virgo?
I think we skipped Cancer as well.
Okay, that's true.
So I'll start with Cancer. Cancer is deeply caring and very self-protective.
Okay.
Very family-oriented.
Okay.
Scorpio is the psychologist of the zodiac. Scorpios penetrate deeply into whatever they're passionate about, and they will dig until they get the truth.
Virgo?
Virgo is an earth sign. They are, their end goal is to serve, but not to serve in terms of let me sweep up after the party, although you will find Virgos doing that, but more, I want to serve you in order to find myself.
I see.
I find myself through the service that I provide others.
And Capricorn?
Capricorn is the businessman, the entrepreneur, the person who is very, very goal-oriented and driven to achieve.
Wow. And go ahead and do Sagittarius.
And
I was
Sagittarius. Sagittarius, despite, yes, that we are mostly lovely and all those things, Sagittarians are the philosophers of the zodiac. Sagittarians' end goal is to move on to the next thing, never to be stagnant. They're known as gypsies, and they are meaning seekers. Everything must be imbued with meaning for the Sagittarius.
That's pretty solid. So when we're looking at somebody who's just starting out and wanting to call you for a session, a reading over the phone, what's contact phone number again?
404-223-3363.
And your website is www.astrosphere.net. ASTROSPHERE.net. And you can also email Michelle at astrosphere.net. But when somebody is just beginning to look at their astrology and make sense of it, because it can be pretty daunting. I mean, when you're just seeing all those trines and
Absolutely. I went back for a second session. There was so much information, and I need to go back for more because
you're a Sagittarius.
Well, yeah.
That quest for meaning.
Yes. Yes. There really is a lot of information to
absorb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And which is wonderful because she recorded it. So I actually downloaded it onto MP3 and have listened to it again, and will listen to it again.
Let's take your sign, since you did have your session in the last month or so, because your birthday was December 6th. I remembered. What was the one thing that you learned that you didn't know?
I think the main thing was that astrology is not a predictor of what your life is going to be, that it only shows you the energy that is going on for that period of time, and it changes as the planets move, and that I have the choice about how I'm going to respond to that energy.
Yeah, but personally.
Oh, personally.
I mean, that was wonderful because we needed to hear that again. But personally, what was the one thing that she said that when you really started thinking about it, because I know you, and I know you as an MD, and I know you as a close friend, you just,
I'll tell you.
You just sit with everything.
Told me that I'm a Sagittarius, and I have Sagittarius in 4 houses.
You have 4 planets in Sagittarius. And rising. So your ascendant is also Sagittarius.
Okay, so I'm very Sagittarius. And then the key thing, though, was Chiron.
Absolutely.
Chiron was a centaur god and was the wounded healer, poet, musician, mentor. And it was like, oh, my God, that's like me. The wounded healer not really fitting in anywhere. I mean, I've got one foot in the complementary medical world and one foot in the conventional world. I don't really fit in there. I mean, there are all sorts of parallels in my life.
You're a musician.
I'm a musician. I'm not a poet, but I do like to teach, and that was a component. And so it just reinforced things that I knew about myself, and it was just right there on paper.
Wow. That's pretty wonderful.
What I hear most frequently from people are that they feel validated, they feel confirmed, or they feel that they have been given options about what they can do with the energies that they hadn't thought about or that they hadn't occurred to them. What happens is that people are going through issues, or they're going through a trauma, or they're going through a change, and they're so close to it that they don't have the ability to see far enough outside themselves to get a broader perspective. So part of my job is to help people see alternatives to what they're already seeing. Part of my job is to open a few more doors for them to discover and explore so that they can make better decisions on the energies that are impacting them.
Wow.
That's really sort of my forte. And people end up leaving feeling energized and more optimistic about their future. And that's what it's all about, because if you're walking out the door with an optimistic mind frame, then what you're bringing into your realm, into your future, is a more optimistic future. It's something that's going to carry more positivity.
Wow.
So that's really the point. The point is not to tell you what you already know, and not to say, oh, I'm all woo-woo because I can tell you what energies are coming up.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is have a better, healthier, more holistic life, because now you're prepared and the doors have been opened in your psyche so that you can grab onto things that you hadn't thought of before. That's sort of the point.
Pretty amazing. One of the things that interests me is utilizing astrology as a tool to assist in helping people achieve better health and wellness. When we took our homeopathy class, part of homeopathy is when you're choosing a remedy, you're looking at that person's personality and character traits. And that takes time to talk to a person and kind of pull that information out. Whereas if you know their chart, you can pretty much get to sort of that nugget of who that person is pretty quickly. I think it also helps, at least me, in addressing people with regard to what am I going to ask them to do, because if they're in a certain state, you might choose something else for them to do, or smaller steps, smaller pieces, or, adjust your recommendations to try to meet them where they are. Some of my biggest failures was not recognizing what was going on with the person and then making suggestions that they couldn't possibly do.
Right.
And then they have a sense of failure, and you have a sense of failure, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that astrology, at least in this type of practice, can be very beneficial for the practitioner and the patient. So I would like to, at some point, explore this further,
right?
Because I look at it as another tool to help me help other people.
And Vanessa, also, let's give that information, because I actually had somebody from Asheville today say, I need to talk to Dr. Hall. So Dr. Hall's phone number is
678-623-3038. That's 678-623-3038. And the website is www.mobile-medicine.net.
So we have about 5 minutes left. We're like running down the hour already. So Michelle, what kind of advice could you what would you leave us with tonight? I mean, since we're not getting to my love life and my lake house, what would you leave us with?
Let's see.
In seriousness.
I'd like to say that anywhere you find yourself, any decision that you need to make, any life change that's coming up, if you find someone who can talk to you about that from such a deeply personal level, as talking with a good, sound astrologer can do, and experience that with an astrologer. That's a fantastic place to either start a transition or to find your way to that in the middle or at the end of one.
Well, I think that what's so crucial about this and what I'm hearing, because this is really the first time we've had to really chat. I know that you two have talked, but the thing that I'm impressed by, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the thing that I'm impressed by is the fact that it's really across the board. I mean, it's really looking at all aspects of your life. And for somebody like me, on those rare occasions that I've had readings, from other intuitives, my personality is so strong, and because my work is so strong, that the only information they can ever pick up is about my work. And I'll always say, but I know about my work. I mean, my work isn't in question. I want my personal life. But my intense personality in terms of my work overshadows everything, so they're never able to get personal information. What I like about this is we're not really, I mean, some of it, just in looking at your energies as you're talking, you're intuiting the information. I mean, you've got the information in front of you, but you're using intuition in terms of really looking at and diagnosing or looking at what it is you're actually reading. I mean, that's been really clear. Your intuition is really strong. And so, but I like it because it seems to pull in all aspects of your life, and I'm sure you can single in and look at one or two areas.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're really going to get an overview, and I'm pretty impressed with that. for somebody like me that, you don't get that information on everything else. We've got 2 minutes. Dr. Hall, what would you like to add in there?
What would I like to add? Well, I'd like to just add for our callers that they should call for consultations. I think both Michelle and I are able to do consultations on the phone and help direct people to care. I would love to partner with Michelle with a client and see how that information can be useful to taking care of a person.
Absolutely.
And I guess I want to stress again that, we have choice here. We can choose the positive of the energy, or we can choose the negative.
We're right back to personal choices, aren't we?
It seems to always come back to we may spend the year on it.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Michelle, thank you for being a part of things. Vanessa, thank you as always for co-hosting with me.
Fun.
And being a part of this. Thank you so much for joining us, and come back next week and join us. Certainly look at all of our websites. We'd appreciate it. So many blessings. Good night, and we'll see you next week.